Hello, everybody, and welcome back to season 4 of Tiny Little Victories. Yeah, season 4. Can you hear it? Put your hand in the air for season 4. Woo! I am so glad that you guys are still here with us, and I'm even more excited that we're in season 4. And this season, we have amazing guests already lined up for you, and we're doing something a little bit different because what is life if not change and evolving? And that's what Tiny Little Victories is doing. So before I get to our very first guest of season 4, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the changes because I'm pretty excited. Number one, we have noticed that you beautiful listeners actually like longer episodes. And I think that one of the things we did in season 1 was tell a little bit more story around the things that the guest was talking about. If it was about going to the moon, we talked a little bit about technology that took them to the moon. If it was about agriculture, we talked a little bit about the challenges facing our agriculture system today. And that is what we're going back to. So we're kind of coming back to full circle from season 1. And that brings me to our next guest. She is a founder and entrepreneur of a design accessory company in Dallas, Texas called Chicks and Caboodles, Patrece Morrison. This is such an incredible fashion accessory brand because it was created out of a journey of personal growth and healing. And I think that some of the things that happen to us along the way in life come from personal growth and healing. So Patrece talks about her story of transformation. She struggled with low self-esteem her whole life, being bullied in school, and then finding her voice through her creative expression. And by doing that, she then turned that around to help other people shine who were going through the same problems. I love this story because in a world that is terribly fraught right now with hate and an indulgence in social media where we forget who's sitting behind those posts, Patrece is one of those people who steps out from behind that and has brought her journey into her passion for fashion accessories. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what her brand Chicks and Caboodles does. One of the things she does is she takes and gets and collects and people send to her denim, old denim, vintage denim, for her to create and turn into these very unique fashion accessories, from clutch pocketbooks to shoulder pocketbooks to extravagant and enchanting earrings and necklaces, all created from denim. The heart of Chicks and Caboodles really lies in its mission to empower other people. And I think that's a great way to form a company, right? It's not just about making money, and it is about making money. We all know that, but it's also about empowering others. And Patrece is going to talk about how her experiences have taught her the importance of helping people who are marginalized and misunderstood. She holds workshops for kids and teens to help them create their own accessories. So in other words, extend their own expression into what they're creating. Patrece won a prestigious design award in Dallas, Texas in 2024. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with before we get to Patrece, and she's very inspiring, so you guys better get ready for this, is that every one of her accessories, which we're going to put in the notes where you can buy, you can share, you can gift to other people, is a symbol of overcoming challenges and finding light in the darkness. So please welcome our next guest, Patrece Morrison, the founder of Chicks and Caboodles. Hey, you guys, I have Patrece Morrison in the studio with me today. Hello, Patrece.
Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm so good. And I'm so glad to see you again because actually, I just want everyone to know this is the happiest, most beautiful face. There's like glowing all the time. And I'm just happy to see your face and welcome you back to the show to talk about what you're doing with Chicks and Caboodles. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
So we met back in, October at the AIN Fashion Accessory Design Awards, which you won.
Yes. Can you
Yay!
believe it? How awesome.
I think you actually didn't believe it when they announced your name. You didn't look like you believed it.
I didn't
Yeah.
really, I just see myself as such a small designer in this, in just a, like a small fish in, a
Yeah.
big, big, big pond or whatever. And
Yeah.
I just did not see myself winning that event. I didn't. I mean, I wanted it, I desired it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I didn't really see myself winning it. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. I could see and you were so gracious too, because I think when they announced your name, and just to everybody out there, the AIN Showcase is an annual event where they gather together Dallas fashion designers. And to all the Dallas listeners out there, Dallas fashion designers. So even though Patrece just said, little fish, big font, I don't think so, because your work is quite original. And I think that's one of the things that maybe surprised you, is that the popular vote was for you. And that was a big room of people. And I think that that is a true testament to who you are with Chicks and Caboodles and what you've created. So, after you won this award, my question is what did you do? How has that changed for you in terms of what you're creating, if anything?
First, I'll say that it just took my confidence level just one notch higher, So,
Yay.
I know a lot of people out there struggle with that self esteem and
Yeah.
validation. And I think that just took me to a whole nother level as far as my confidence and as far as my design, like my craft, like I'm going to do it. Like I'm going for
Yeah.
this. I'm going to put all the bells and whistles on this purse or on these earrings, because I'm confident. Like I know they're going to like my stuff, right? But since the event, I've had so many opportunities. I just did 40 years in fashion with the House of Armadaus. I think he was one of the judges, Robert Lee Percy.
Ah, yes. Yes, that's right.
Yes, he invited me to be in his fashion show, his showcase. So I did a segment in his fashion show. And
Wow.
I can truly say that I have had so many doors to open since the competition.
So, okay. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I think one of the things that you've been really candid about is your journey to get here. And I think that I love that story about you, when we met there, because I was trying to pull those earrings off of that model. I thought that event was nutty, and that it was all these beautiful women up there, holding these accessories, and your accessories were like a beep, 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 like this flashy light. And I think one of the girls was actually like, lady, don't touch the stuff. I was like, I want those earrings. So I want to talk about okay, your creations are all made with denim,
Mostly them.
mostly denim. And so the fashion line that you had at AIN with the very big hoops and those very large, spectacular, enchanting necklaces made of hoops. I mean, is that fashion line evolved from the line that you did with the fashion show with
Robert, yes.
well, I mean, has there been a shift already in your designs from what we saw on the line at AIN versus this fashion show?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think winning the competition, it kind of okayed me to be different.
I love that. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain,
We have plenty of time. Explain.
you're second guess. Like sometimes you second guess your work. You're like,
Yeah.
is this too much? Is this too little? Is this,
Yeah.
You kind of want to know where you stand, but
Yeah.
now I know it's just right.
God, isn't that amazing how that external validation sort of shores up what you kind of already knew about yourself, right? But you a little wobbly. I get it.
Yes.
Same with writing. Yeah.
Yes, so I know that I'm supposed to be in this space and I know that I'm awesome. So,
Yay. I mean, do we have special effects for that? You realize it. And I think when people have that confidence, it just continues to ride and build upon that. But your journey, though, you felt was a challenge for you, but also created what you created today. And I know that you've said publicly that you were bullied in school and you had low confidence. So, what is it that you were able to overcome to get you to the point where fashion design was the bridge for you?
everybody has something that, they're not so proud of that they may suffer from, and it has you just in this hold. But I think, we all either have to find or we do have that one thing that just, for me, it was always, I'm in my room with my dolls
Really?
and I'm cutting fabric. And
Yeah.
listen, every Barbie doll I had an outfit. Like,
God,
I would change the outfits that came with the dolls, from the retail store was
forget it.
not enough.
Forget it.
It was not enough. Like I'm gonna take this to a whole I should have been designing for Barbie, okay?
You know what? I was just going to say you should have been designing for Barbie because I mean, those outfits are not great. Let's
Yeah,
face it.
okay. That part.
They're horrible.
Yeah, but that was therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
That was my space, and I didn't know that that was setting up, for what was to come.
Ah, okay.
And I've always, being bullied and having
Yeah.
that, space, for me to create, and my mind wasn't on going to school the next day, on the people that, were going to call me names or whatever that
Yeah.
situation was, I had that outlet.
It's almost like you created your own safe bubble. Like it's beautiful that you knew that as a child, I think, actually to go into your own space and create like a safe haven in a way. Because even today, as grown-ups, if you carry that back out into the world, you can pass through the bullies and the haters that are out there because they are everywhere. And I think we call them bullies. I think they're like really bad bullies today, even more so because they're gaslighting. And Patrece, I think like when you're successful, when you stand out from the crowd, they don't like it.
They don't.
So I think your journey of like overcoming bullying and being in your room, creating better Barbie outfits is probably like that, what I would call like that one tiny little victory that you're able to cling to that puts you where you are now.
Yes, yes. It's all part of the design.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
I do, and nobody could understand why I was in high school. I mean, I played with dolls all the way up into high school. And it wasn't that I was playing with dolls. They couldn't
Yeah.
understand, I was designing for dolls, like I wasn't in there talking to Barbie,
Yeah.
I was in there designing, to me, it's a difference. It's a difference,
They're tiny mannequins.
Yeah, that part. Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. They're tiny mannequins. Sometimes my family and friends couldn't understand, like, oh, she's in there playing with those Barbie dolls, I'm not playing.
But like, what such a societal programming, right? Like, there's no rule book that says at like 8 you have to stop playing with dolls. I read an article the other day by one of my favorite poets. He's dead now, and he was saying like he loves to have conversation with children because they're like ancient Chinese philosophers, right? They don't have this programming, they don't have these filters that we give them. And he said they say the most amazing things, and then all of a sudden they get to school and it all starts, right? The programming,
Yes.
the bullying, the changing, and what was considered creative and interesting then becomes like, what's wrong with them? So I love it that you made that choice in those vulnerable teenage years to continue to create for yourself and sort of take that with you as like armor in a way. It's like, I don't care what you guys are doing. I'm designing here.
Yes. I think definitely, I carried it on through, all of my years. I've
Yeah.
always been a crafter. I love to call myself Tinkerbell.
I love that. That may be the name of your episode now. Your episode may be called Tinkerbell.
Listen, I love to tinker. I love to tinker. I love to get in my space and I'll laugh at myself and I'm like, I'm in here tinkering. I'm tinkering and I'm trying to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
What's next for my line? What's next for Chicks and Caboodles? So you have to get in there and you have to tinker.
You have to. It's also about evolution, right? You can't keep doing the same things. So talking about Chicks and Caboodles, like how long have you had Chicks and Caboodles? What's the timeline on this beautiful fashion brand?
Oh my gosh. I started in 2012.
Okay, 2012. So
Yes.
just over 12 years now.
Yes. It started just as my husband traveled all the time.
Mhm.
So I was home with the kids and, I didn't work.
You're raising kids. That's work.
Yes. Yes. So I just started crafting. I've always been a tinker, so I
Yeah.
just, I'm tinkering. And I remember making these fabric necklaces. I'm making the fabric necklaces, and I remember wearing it to church.
Okay. Here we go. Yeah.
Okay. And someone approached me,
Yeah. Of course they did. They're dramatic necklaces. Yeah.
was like, "Oh, that's so unique. That's so nice." And I said, "Oh, thank you, thank you." I didn't think
Yeah.
anything about it. I went on with my day.
Yeah.
And that person reached out to me. She called and she said, "Have you ever thought about selling these items?"
What? It's always one person out of the blue, isn't it? It's
It's one
always one
person.
person. They're like just magically hydroplaning into your life because you were
Yes,
brave enough to put on something that you created and took it out into the world.
yes. So that was pretty much the beginning, I think,
Okay.
of the journey. I'll just say the journey.
Yeah.
I've been doing it, but I didn't really make it official until,
Yeah.
maybe a few years after that, when it just kept growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
But I was in just that craft space, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a mindset, right? It's a difference way between I'm a crafter and I'm making these jewelry versus the designer space. Or could
Yes.
we? Okay.
Yes. I will say when I started in 2012, it was being born, but it was still in a craft state of mind.
Okay. I think it's always good to be able to understand the growth of a business as well. Like, I have a friend in California who is a magnificent baker. Like, she works for the county of San Diego. But man, these cakes literally like could be on any baking show. They're incredible. And I always say to her, why don't you bake these cakes for business? She goes, no, then it'd be like work.
Oh,
So
yeah.
she's still in the craft stage and she doesn't want to leave the craft stage. But I think that what we're talking about is an entrepreneurial drive here,
Mhm.
because to move from craft stage to enter what you have said earlier to me before is this stressful sort of bigger pond of fashion accessories, a fashion designer, to me is like a really big, like intellectual and emotional leap for you. Was that something that happened overnight, or did you just all of a sudden wake up and like, oh my God, I'm a fashion designer?
I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It's something that you have to work at, and you have to
Yeah.
believe that you're a fashion designer. You have to believe it. You have to believe it and you have to know it. Like definitely again, the AIN competition really solidified that for me.
Okay.
Like I'm just like, I'm a designer. Yes, I'm a
I
designer.
love that. And you know what? It's funny. Your daughter was at the show. Absolutely shout out to your daughter who was there and ended up standing next to her, not knowing it was your daughter. And we were talking about you.
No.
And she said, that is my mom. And I'm like, wait, what? How is that? Okay. How is that even possible? Because you guys look exactly the same age. And secondly, I said, that work is incredible. She goes, I've been telling her that forever. So
Yeah.
she told me that she has been telling you that you are an amazing designer for a while now. Is that true? Is she telling the truth for a
Yeah.
while?
She has.
Okay. You just didn't
You
believe
know
her?
how families word is. You
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when they tell you you're pretty, you're like, girl.
Girl, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I know all the time. It's like, please. No, it's true. It's external validation, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But I do sense like a whole change in you now. You're so, yeah, you're like doing the dance. Your hair is all naturally curly now. And I feel like you're more you. And even though I've only met you one time, I feel like you just literally just stepped into Patrece.
I did. I did. And it's an amazing thing. Oh, girl, don't make me cry. Girl, don't make me
I'm
cry.
gonna make you cry. This is a show where you can cry and laugh. I teared up, to be honest, doing your intro because your story is really quite powerful because you've stepped into yourself as a designer, but you are really, really committed to giving back to kids and teens who face
Yes.
the same bullying and self-esteem challenges that you face. So what is your belief now that you're giving back? Has that also changed? Because I know the same.
Oh, it's the same. Like,
Yeah.
of course, I'm a little bit busier now. I have a
Yeah.
little bit, a little more on my plate. I always, would love the opportunity to give back,
Yeah.
to show everyone is not meant for college. Some people have to get out and do things themselves, make
I
stuff
agree.
happen, and make things happen, So I always want to, be able to bless someone else with the opportunity to feel like their craft is enough, like you can
Mm-hmm.
make this your moneymaker, or, how can you solve a problem in the fashion industry
Yeah.
or, whatever that may be. I want to empower them,
Yeah.
to be able to, to see themselves, and their work as something that can either pay the bills or,
Yeah.
something that they'll love doing.
Yeah. And maybe they start out as a crafter and move to a designer. I think like that giving back element is really missing today from society. I was quite interested to know what happened with the mentorship through AIN. And then you told me like you got invited into that fashion show. I think you never know who you're touching, right? You never know what child or what teenager or even what young woman maybe who doesn't know which way to go. And I love what you said about college because I've often believed that it's really about, like you just said, get out and get stuff done, right? Why is that not something we focus on more? Like if someone has a craft or a skill, like maybe that's the direction that they need to go instead of bullying people into
Hmm.
these areas that you're just not happy with. In fact, if I had to do a non AI review of all the guests on this show, the theme would 100% be that they were off the path of what their family or what society wanted them to do.
Yes.
And if they had stayed on that path, they would not have created what they created today.
Hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. It's very interesting, It is. Society tells us, they just guide us in this strict path,
Yeah.
of what the world thinks that each individual should do and be,
Yes.
And it's just, that's stressing. That can drive somebody crazy.
But that's the thing, right? Like, if you're really aware of your confidence and who you are, I know what that's like to be like, just keep going turn this way. And you're like, that doesn't feel right for me.
Hmm.
What did other fashion designers say to you after you won that award? Very curious.
They congratulated me.
Okay, good. Nobody was like,
Yeah, like they were very supportive. We followed each other on most of the social media platforms, and a lot of the fashion designers shouted me out and tagged me. So
Trey.
yeah,
I remember him. Yeah, he was like super like rah rah Patrece when I talked to him afterwards.
yes, it was really refreshing, and
I love that.
I don't know, it was just a very good experience. It was a very good experience.
I love that. I'm sure Aon would be happy to hear that as well. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, how do you come up with the ideas for all these designs? At the show I saw, I thought your designs had a very specific look. Everything was like oversized and really what I would call like very fashion dramatic. What inspires you? Like, how do you come up with your ideas for a specific line?
Well, all of my ideas they come in my sleep, like in my dreams. So it's weird, like I'm not woke, but it just comes in my mind. And then when I wake up,
You can be woke. I mean,
it's weird. Like it's so
yeah.
weird. Like it's almost like a dream. It comes to me in my mind in my sleep. And then I wake up and I sketch it. So I sketch it out and then I make it a reality. And then I'll make, if I need to make any adjustments to it or maybe it didn't work out or something like that,
Yeah.
I'll kind of tweak it. I was working with just the resources that I had here locally. My daughter flew me out to New York. And when I say sky is the limit out there, like, oh my gosh, the fabrics, the findings from buttons to purse straps to whatever.
It's like Never Land there, and it's like
Listen, it's
insane.
so much more different than the Dallas area.
Yeah, Dallas, we are in Dallas and we're going to talk about Dallas, but I love that you're drawing this difference because I think sometimes Dallas thinks it's like so cool. And I'm like, I don't think so. Right.
Listen, at least I haven't found it. I have not found
Yeah.
that store yet, but versus the beginning when I started, I was just using the basic. I'm just going to call it basic findings, like your pearls, like the very basic things you could find.
You mean like to connect things together? You
Yes,
said
to
bindings.
connect,
Okay, got it.
to make, whatever that was. It just was the simplest form of that, the
Okay.
most generic, basic form of that.
Okay.
Now, sky's the limit. I'm using tapestry now.
What?
One thing that I really love that I'm using now is curtain tiebacks.
Oh, that is so cool.
It's so crazy though. Like, I'm like, yeah, this purse strap is a curtain tieback. Like I'm so eager to say that it's a curtain tieback. Like it's used
I love that.
to hold your drapes.
Yeah, but it's holding this purse up.
Yeah.
But I mean, why not repurpose materials? And that's why I'm so interested in your creative process. And you're shifting to curtain tiebacks. We're going to definitely say that 20 times now for the rest of the podcast. And you've shifted from like very basic fasteners. And so what are some of the materials that you're using? And were those materials inspired from your trip in New York?
Yes, I'm using burlap. I'm using, girl, everything that's crazy. Anything, listen, like anything that someone would probably frown upon, that's what I try to use. Because I just feel like it speaks to my journey as a child and being bullied and people just not understanding why you're so different. If it's different, I'm using it. If it's a conversation starter, I'm using it.
You are using that pain and that bullying as a creative outlet now.
Yes. So if I think someone might question it, I'm using it.
When did that mindset come? Has that been a gradual evolution over time to get to that, like, girl, this is a safety pin and we're using it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it took me some time to be confident in just my, what I'm doing, not to question it. You know how we are, does this look good? Does my hair look good?
Yeah.
Just girl, roll with it.
I think you need to tell people that. I think that's one of the reasons I love Chicks and Caboodles and your story is because you are breaking that status quo of being like everybody is looking so samey. And I'm like, I really am drawn to people who stand out. Like, I would love to see a purse with a curtain tieback, in my opinion. I love curtain tiebacks. Like, I wanted to seam them into a painter's drop cloth recently as loops for like curtains in a garden shed.
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny that you mentioned those because I was Googling the other day is like, can you buy curtain tiebacks? So I think that creative people do that. Like that's what you do. You just wake up in a flash and you see it and you get up and you run and you draw it down. For me, I wake up and run to my computer and start typing immediately.
Yes.
Like this thing, you can see it in your head. And I'm glad that I'm this way. I would not want to be any other way.
Mm-hmm. And we have to get to that point. Sometimes, like I have regrets that I didn't get to this point any sooner, like, oh Lord, if I had got to this point when I was 19, Lord, if I was at this point that I am right now, how would life be? But guys, listen, the world is going to be the world. The critics will be the critics. You have to love who you are and be who you are in spite of. And let the naysayers nay, okay?
Yeah, let the naysayers nay. Amen to that. Amen to that. I think that journey is what just pulled you out. So it's like, you're right. Like looking back, could you have been that person then? You kind of already were, right? But all of those things that affected you actually sort of really like rounded that person out.
Yes.
I've given up trying to like please everybody because the only person you need to please is yourself and of course the people around you that you love. But like, I think that is what makes good design, in my opinion. And when you're looking at yourself as a Dallas fashion designer, has that changed? Are you just think of yourself as a fashion designer? Forget about Dallas, right?
I'm a fashion designer. I would love to experience New York Fashion Week and all of that good stuff.
You will.
But I will say that I am a fashion designer. Yes, Patrece Morrison is a fashion designer.
Patrece, thank you so much for coming on this show and sharing your journey and your confidence with what you're creating and what you're giving back to people. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.